Hey everyone, how you guys doing? I just want to take this time to thank everybody for joining us for that first episode. Anybody that clicked the like button, anybody that watched it and shared it, I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and let's keep it up. All right, so this is going to be episode number 2, and this episode went so long that we're splitting it into 2 episodes. So Michael Smith is our guest, and he's a realtor with EXP Realty, and we kind of get into like what happened after the derecho and the market, how it affected the market, it being a seller's market, kind of what that means, and if you're a buyer or a seller in today's market, what to expect. So I look forward to you guys hearing it, and I hope you guys enjoy it and share it and like it just as much as you did the first episode. All right, thanks. Enjoy. Welcome to the Random Real Estate Podcast with your hosts, Randon Hill and Colton Jordan, where anything real estate related could be the topic. Welcome, everyone, to the second episode of the Random Real Estate Podcast. I'm joined today by my guest, Michael Smith with eXp Realty. He's a realtor and he's been doing it for about 6 years now, and I'm going to let him take the mic away and tell him about yourself. Go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, Randon, thanks for having me out here, guys. I appreciate it. I've been in the real estate industry for just a little bit over 6 years, specializing in residential. I have done some commercial in the past as well, but helping a lot of first-time buyers, people that are upsizing, downsizing, and yeah, so excited to be here.
I was just gonna make sure, sharing the first one was just like cool to see people actually like found it interesting. I was a little worried about like obviously we're obsessed with our industries and not everyone's obviously has the same interest, but it was really neat to see like all the shares and likes and comments and some of the obviously jokes the buddies have sent out. But the feedback's been great, so I really appreciate everybody sharing it. So I just want to make sure that didn't go unsaid.
No, yeah, that's very true. Thank you guys. Anyone who listened and shared it, we do appreciate it. We actually got a little bit more action than we thought we were going to. But today's episode, we're going to talk a little bit. We're going to talk about is the seller's market here in the Cedar Rapids area. Actually, it probably is in the entire nation. So we're going to kind of go over what a seller's market is and kind of what to look for if you're out looking for a house right now, whether you're buying or selling. Michael, what do you think a seller's market is?
Yeah, so a seller's market essentially is when inventory is extremely low and the demand is high. So in our Cedar Rapids market right now, you're seeing very minimal houses out. And so there's a ton of competition with buyers, multiple offers. A lot of them are going bid style. So essentially what that is they will hold all offers for, let's say, a 3-day period and then review them all and kind of pick from that. And one out of maybe 10 people that are the ones that actually secure the property. And so yeah, it's just been pretty crazy. Just kind of some other things that have to do with the sellers market. Definitely, I think COVID has kind of been a big player, and then the derecho in the Cedar Rapids area has definitely been people taking damage to their house, trying to get that stuff all fixed up. So
Yeah, this is something that we'll never see again. And I'm going to knock on wood because I will, whether if you don't like it, wait 15 minutes. But the things we're seeing and just some of the challenges, in my industry alone, just as a general contractor, the increase in labor and also the complexity of the damages. You work a hailstorm, complete different game. And I've been doing probably at least this last month, almost 10 different roofs, and I've rebuilt rafters and soffit boxes. And that's like a normal thing to do because of all the trees that hit these houses. So what we're dealing with right now is very complex and something that a lot of us haven't seen. So it's added, difficulties in labor increases, price increases, labor shortage, right? So things are just it's crazy to be navigating through this time, but the market is definitely wild, and I'm constantly getting calls about time to refinance, and also here's the right moves to be making during a time like this. And I feel very reactive just because there's so many things that happen that are out of our control that just trying to stay on top of everything is just it's a roller coaster every day. But It's fun, but at the same time, it's not easy. I mean, right now, trying to get through it, especially with this derecho, it has not been easy, but helping people is all it's about. And one day at a time. I mean, we're still probably looking at, I would say, confidently, another 2 years to get everything fixed up, 100%.
That is very crazy.
Yeah. I mean, 2 to 3 years of work. Yeah.
And I agree, especially with all the damage that's happening and the time frame. Like you said, if it's going to take 2 to 3 years, just think about how many houses that's holding back just from being on the market or capable of being sold, or people that's holding people back that would possibly either want to sell or move forward with their life and they can't because they're stuck. And it's kind of shitty for them.
I got a quick question right off the top is with refinancing, I've had a lot of my customers get really anxious because I've been learning that you cannot refi and go through the process without the damages from the storm uh, being completed, which is really odd because here's my thinking. If a contract was put together from a general contractor that the work is going to be completed, money's exchanged, legal contracts together that we know the work is going to be done like this, it's laid out. Okay. Why can't they take that as I'm going to appraise this home, throughout the refi, um, assuming that the work is done? Why is it that it has to physically be done before someone can refi? Because like people are getting really anxious because sighting's out 120 days, right? And they want to refi and they're fully covered for full siding replacement, and they can't refi and they're upset because they're scared that they're never going to see these interest rates again, and it's simply because there's a low supply of material and they simply just can't get the work done.
Yeah, no, I'll comment on that. I actually am in the process of refinancing an investment property. And that was one of the things that the appraiser brought up. He just said, "Is there any derecho damages? We can't approve this loan without, this refi without having all that stuff fixed." So I was missing some shingles, soffit, fascia, etc. And they just flat out won't, because most of the time they're selling these loans off to a third party investor that's in California that doesn't care that there was a derecho, unfortunately. And so they just have their guidelines they have to go by, and really it's out of the bank's control. It's unfortunate, but I think it's just more of a liability thing for them. They don't want to take on this new, loan, and then somebody has a tarp on their roof for the next year and a half because the contractor bails out or something. I mean, I know you've seen a lot of that probably. People getting committing to a contract, and then that contractor just disappears or moves on to the next, those storm chaser kind of people.
100%. And to make a comment on this, that's so important right now too, is the longevity of how much time it's taking to get a simple job done. There's many factors to that. Okay. But 100%, when I'm working with a customer right now, I've met many, and like, oh, I don't know, even last week was like five of they had a contract and it was broken because they were going to do the siding. Well, they did the roof last year, and then the customer tried calling them and said, "Hey, are we going to get working on the siding this year?" And they said, "Sorry, we don't do siding anymore." And it's simply just because there's better margins in the roof than there is siding. And that's just me being very transparent and honest. And that's exactly why they left. So I think that's, in a way, I think that's smart though, that, if you are going to refi, it's kind of holding you to the fire. Like, hey, you have to get the stuff done, which I want that, right? I don't want our community to look the way it is right now. That it stinks, everything, nothing looks pretty, right? And we all want to get our biggest investment, back to what it used to be. So I think that's a good thing, but also it's just bad timing, right? Like, I mean, I would 100% understand why you want to take advantage of these interest rates right now, but unfortunately, you're going to have to wait till all the work gets done.
Yep. No, I completely agree. And me and Raymond were just talking a few minutes before this, and I think that's also another reason why, we're in a seller's market, because some people just flat out don't want to move right now because they've got, tarps and siding missing, and they just want to showcase their house in the best light possible. They don't want to, have pictures online with a tarp flapping in the wind. And, and there's other people that have gotten, the new siding and stuff, and now their house, they love how it looks because they got to customize that. When they bought it 10 years ago, they didn't get to choose the color of siding, and now they did the gray with the white corners or whatever, and it's making it, they're kind of making it how they want it, and if they're not buying or building, it's kind of hard to find that, with a used house, I like to say. So
Hey, what's wrong with the gray with the white corners, huh?
hey, that's what I'm doing on mine. So no, I'm just
Yeah, you guys are the reason why I can't get any of my siding jobs done. No, I think it's good though. It's so modern and it looks really good. And I think the offset of the white corners, or just in general, the corners and trim being different than the actual siding, gives a house so much character. Even the most like box house, it just gives it depth. I think it's awesome to see all these. Like, I really like a lot of these old ranch style houses that are getting new siding and roof because they look amazing. Like, they don't make them like that anymore, and it's nice to see them like freshened up, polished. It's awesome.
Yeah, that little modern edge to it.
Right. Exactly. 100%.
So with everything being, all the work not being completed within 2 years, I don't see our market getting out of a seller's market anytime soon at all because of that.
yeah, I completely agree with you on that. It's really unfortunate for buyers because there's going to be some people that are going to continue to miss out on these homes. I've had clients that have put in 3 to 4 offers, some of them over asking price, and they're still not getting them just because there's cash buyers out there. There's somebody that doesn't have a house that they need to get sold before purchasing. So it is what it is, but I think as long as they keep moving forward and just stay positive, they'll eventually secure that property.
So what do you think if you're a buyer in this market? What are some maybe tips or tricks that a buyer should be aware of?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. Definitely making sure that you're pre-qualified, that all your T's are crossed and your I's are dotted. And there's some people out here that are waiving inspections. That can be to an advantage. Be careful with that if the house did have some derecho damage. I definitely think it is important to still get a home inspection done, just because you may not be able to see something from the ground. And Colton, I'm sure you see, a house may appear from the ground to be in perfect shape, that it didn't get any damages, and then you probably get on that roof or look at it a little closer and you notice a lot of that kind of stuff coming up. So
That is so important. I want to make sure this doesn't go unsaid, man. One of my customers, I literally peek my head up in the attic every single inspection. It takes a little bit longer, but I think it's so important, especially with this kind of storm. Their house looked fine. The roof needs replaced, and typical roof replacement. I stuck my head up in the attic, walked around, put on my headlamp. 3 trusses were broken. 3. And it looked fine. So true, man. Having that second look and a different set of eyes on it is beyond important, because what you can't see is actually more damaging and scary than, the physical things that are more cosmetic, right? A blown off shingle or cracked siding. It's the interior, it's the base of the home that you want to make sure is 100% fixed up.
yeah, and I think everyone would benefit from having you come out to their property, even if they don't feel that they got storm damage, because there are plenty of people in Cedar Rapids that did not file an insurance claim, that, oh, I didn't get any damage. And I'm sure if you took a second look at it, you'd say, no, actually you did. And unfortunately, some of those people, when that year passes or whatever for the ability to file that insurance claim, it's going to be too late, and they're going to have to pay for those repairs out of pocket at some point. So definitely good to have you come out and take a look at it, even if that's not, if they don't think that they maybe got damaged, because they more than likely probably got some sort. It may not be anything crazy, but still just wanting to get that taken care of for for the future.
That That reminds me of Amera, Colton. Sent Colton to one of my previous clients, and the insurance agent came out, or their adjuster came out and said that there's no damage done. Literally, the gutter was hanging from the roof, and said this wasn't caused from the derecho. And I sold her the house like a month before, and I was like, "There's no way that this didn't happen because of the derecho." So I got Colton out there, and he's working with her right now, and she's so grateful. She was so happy, and it's awesome.
I think she was taken back because she obviously didn't get up on the roof, and she shouldn't have to, right? That's why there's people like you and I, right, that do this job, but she didn't have the right resource, and she also didn't have any claims experience. She's never filed a claim. And I think that goes for a lot of people. I mean, before I started Recon, I never even had a claim either. So it was actually really crazy to go through that. But yeah, man, I got up on that roof and it was torn up. I mean, the amount of damage that was found, it was just crazy to look at the claim paperwork from the original inspection and then showcasing the damage that was actually occurred. The differences just were mind blowing. So that's probably the best feeling in the world, though, when you do take a claim that unfortunately was mishandled, because that's what happened. And, you know, I give also these adjusters and insurance companies some slack, though, because they're dealing with some of the same challenges. And I get that. And they had to use a lot of third party adjusters. And unfortunately, there was some, bad ones. That is the truth. So even a hailstorm, too, man, it always helps getting that second look and making sure that your dwelling is taken care of for sure.
Yeah, Colton, are you seeing a lot of people, the adjusters that maybe missed a lot of, repair items? I know I've found some stuff that they didn't catch. I didn't know if you're seeing that industry wide, if there's, they kind of just did a 20-minute inspection, walked around, and then, all of a sudden now there's more stuff coming up. Windows are not sealed properly, et cetera. I didn't know kind of from your
Yeah,
standpoint what you guys have seen.
it's probably going to be the best question that you could ask because it really encompasses everything that I do. And yes, I am seeing a lot of re-inspections because after I do inspect a home, there is a re-inspection with another adjuster. And that's when it gets taken care of and goes really well. So I think that's really important to note that when you do get those re-inspections, it always increases the coverage on the claim, meaning that it's written properly for coverage. So for instance, I won't get deep into it, but I have yet to do a repair, meaning you'll start a claim that has only I think it might say one square that they're going to patch. I haven't done a single patch because that's not the proper way to go about it. Because in our industry, there's things we have to follow, and there's code, and there's installation manufacturing code that we have to follow that would never allow us to do a repair. So in construction, this is both my professional opinion and also I think facts, is that when you take material and you detach and reset it, it's never the same. It's compromised. So it never made sense when I would see that they're going to, just repair this, right? And we're going to patch this siding and we're going to patch this blow off area. I would never ever do what was on that. So yeah, it's really important to get that new adjuster out there if you feel that there is more damage incurred, and making sure that the proper scope of work is updated.
Yeah, that makes total sense. I bet a lot of people are just taking the easy way out and just patching it or doing things that aren't by code or by the book.
I had, and this sucks, but the house looks terrible now, and I don't know who did it. Uh, but perfect example, line of sight is in place to make sure that the home isn't depreciated in value, because obviously you want to put light, kind, and quality and color back on the home for everything. That goes for roofing, that goes for siding, that goes for gutters, that goes for everything that we're going to be doing, right? That's what insurance is for. You have replacement cost value. And the reason why that exists is because the siding was discontinued, but they found a similar match. And you were better off, let me just put it this way, leaving the damaged siding up there because it was less noticeable than the new stuff. And I'll leave it at that. And the next day, we had 30-mile-an-hour winds. And where do you think that new siding was? On the ground. So not only did it look terrible and a complete different color, but it also wasn't installed correctly. And the reason why I'm frustrated about that and, passionate about it is because that homeowner didn't get taken care of properly. And for most people, I'd say this a lot, a home is your biggest investment for most, right? So why would you cut corners in that regard, right, for your home? So I think that's just something very important to take note of that we're seeing today.
Yeah, so think about that from a buyer stance. You have sellers just patching derecho damage and adjusters misleading their claims. And we have a feeling that we're going to see probably repercussions of this in the future, whether it be like mold in the attic, or you notice that there's water damage coming down the wall. Anything like that could be overlooked, and we're not going to know until later on down the road. So not only is that something that buyers are going to have to be worried about, but with the market being how it is, we're going to have to worry about competing offers and higher list prices and less inventory and even as is purchases. So with that being said, Michael, do you think you could shed some light on what a buyer is expecting to purchase in this market?
Yeah, so a buyer can definitely expect on a good house to have potential multiple offers. A good portion of the transactions right now are the bid style. They're given a 3 day period to where buyers have the chance to go through the house, pretty much the highest and best offer. I think definitely removing contingencies will help the buyer out as far as hopefully getting their offer accepted. So what a contingency is, if anyone doesn't know what that is,
Colton
it's
doesn't.
um, so contingency is a clause in a real estate transaction where the it's subject to those conditions. So if those are not met, the buyer has the opportunity to back out on the deal. So if it's subject to an appraisal and the property does not appraise, or it's subject to inspections, those are kind of protections on your offer to make sure that everything goes as planned. And if it doesn't, then you do have the opportunity to potentially walk away from the transaction if you can't resolve the issues.
Right. I have a actually good buddy of mine. Randon actually helped him sell it. He's moving and had already purchased his new home in Ely. And what ended up occurring was that the roof was completed, yet there were some fascia soffit items that still needed to be completed, and was still going through the insurance process and just kind of fine tuning what was actually being covered. Long story short, he was able to sell the home with that still being, something that needed to be done, and it helped having the contract already put in place and insurance figured out. But I think it's super important to obviously see those things through, and it's good that there's obviously platforms out there that allow that to happen, because you don't want to buy your next house with outstanding damage that never got taken care of.
A big thing that we're seeing also in the buyer's market are escalation clauses. So if you're not familiar with that, it's pretty much like a language that's inserted into the purchase contract that is, it kind of like ensures your buyer to make their highest and best offer, but they can do it in increments that you decide. So, say for instance, a house is listed for 100,000 and you put an escalation clause in up to 115,000, which I've done with the buyer, and you do it in $1,000 increments, then you'd be $1,000 higher. So say somebody came in at 110,000, then we'd be buying it for 111. I actually lost out on that offer. We wrote it $15,000 above asking, and we lost
It's
out on it.
crazy. Yeah, no, there's been definitely been some crazy overages on, sold properties. I've kind of looked them up after they've closed, and people are paying a lot more on some of these properties if they really want them. So,
Well, and that's the other thing too is, I mean, I remember how competitive it felt when I purchased my home. And I was just telling actually my neighbor the other day how I wish I was more prepared, knew more about the process, because I felt very reactive. And there was a lot of the process that I had no idea, it was a foreign language to me. But other people were putting in offers, and it is it's like, oh, it's almost like playing a sport. I mean, you're basically competing against 10 other people, which kind of sucks. I mean, I didn't enjoy it at all, actually. So I was actually going to ask you both. Randon makes it seem like it's a walk in the park, and the way you've explained things, you've done the same. What can your customers expect if they work with both of you? Like, how do you kind of take that burden away from the homeowner and have them enjoy the process and not be pressured by competition?
yeah, no, that's a great question. So just kind of my theory, I definitely give people a ton of information throughout the process, whether it's the first showing or the 10th showing, just pointing out stuff that maybe they don't think about when they're looking. They're looking at all the pretty shiny stuff, and I'm pointing out windows and stuff that maybe you're going to need to be replaced down the road. So just trying to provide good value to them, beyond just selling them the house, making sure it's a good investment for them. That's something that I take pride in, and I kind of just tell it like it is, and some people don't like that, but yeah. What about you, Brandon?
That's how you do the best business, is telling it how it is. And that's something that everybody's going to remember, is this guy was straightforward. And no, I think I handled the same things the same way. I want to make them feel comfortable. I mean, I'm going to tell them, like, for instance, like that $15,000 offer we wrote, just using that as an example again, I told him, I was like, this is going to be a strong offer, but I don't know if we're going to get it. So I think, that relieves some tension off them, because they're not just, sitting by their phone waiting and waiting. They know that we did the best that we could. And if we don't get it, then you know what, it's on to the next one. And, eventually we did find one, but that's just something that you have to that you have to have with your clients, just to make them feel comfortable and know that they're in good hands when they use us as their realtor.
Actually, a good example of a little plug for you, Randon. I think you talked me out the ledge on like 5 different houses. And one thing that happened during, COVID was my neighborhood, everybody was working from home. And that was about, at least at minimum 6 months where everybody legit was working from home. And our neighborhood's very tight when it comes to like how spaced out we are. So it felt cramped, right? Because like everybody's home at all times. People are coming and going at all times. And I was ready to go. I was ready to leave. I was ready to buy a new house. And one of the things that he did really well was, even though I couldn't see it, he would point out, reasons why I wouldn't want, to purchase that home, and why it was maybe not the right decision to even be moving or even looking at the buying. There was no reason. And that, I think that goes a long way, because I mean, he could have just went along with what I said and that'd been money in his pocket. So I just think that's super important to think about too, when you are working with, a realtor, do they have your best interest in mind? And that best interest, in my personal opinion, is them being the person that's going to point out the things that you don't like. It's kind of like your best friend, right? Your best friend tells you what you don't want to hear, not what you want to hear. And I think that goes hand in hand with business as well, especially in properties, because there's so many things that, like Brandon said, that we're going to be seeing down the road that never got addressed with these properties, that if you have a good realtor, they'll help figure it out.
All right, so that's going to be it for the first part of this episode. This session took about 58 minutes, so I'm splitting it up into 2 sections, and I'm going to do another episode probably in about 2 months or so. So next episode, we're going to have a roofing contractor on, or I think he's a shingle distributor, actually. And we'll have him on and talk about roofs. And then I think we're either going to have an inspector or an insurance broker on. And then we'll probably do the second episode with Michael Smith again. So thank you guys for watching, and tune in 2 weeks. Bye.